Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. You can tell we're doing a live show because Derps decided to come in and jump off on my lap.
You've got to stop with the not giving a proper intro titles and stuff because I'm like doing stuff and then suddenly we're live. Stop it! Stop it!
These are our temporary titles. They'll be back. Normal service will be back next week. So
good Lord.
Yeah, no, these are our.
It's simply unacceptable. I can't work under these conditions.
Wow. You can't work under any conditions. So, anyway, welcome to tonight's contentious and rather rather fractious.
I'm the only one of us who actually has to leave the house to go to work.
Oh, he wounds me. He tasks me. Tasks me.
Evening, all right.
Yes, very good. Right, welcome to tonight's show. We've already got a couple of some news items to talk about tonight, and some other bits and pieces. And we've got project talk as well. So where do you want to start, Drew? You want to talk about projects or news?
I think we'll go with news.
Let's go with news first.
Let's go with news.
Let's go with news. Right. Let's kick off with this then. This was an announcement by Takom. And it is in collaboration with Snowman Models. What could this be?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because the profile, that isn't really a very identifiable profile, is it? So
no, really, no. It's obviously a pair of Apaches, an AH-64D. Is that an also? It's a longbow. Is that a D or an E on the bottom right?
Well, I mean, Mike, I don't really know which way round it is because it could be just an AH-64D and a D longbow, or it could be a D and an E. Certainly, the upper one has got the millimetric wave radar installed.
It's got the
lower one doesn't, which means absolutely nothing because it's a roll fit. So that radar can come on and off as required. People like, the British Army bought enough to equip every helicopter with the radar. I think the US Army's bought enough for about 1 in 4. 1 in 4 will be radar equipped, and I think the Dutch bought about 6 or 7 radar sets for their 28 Apaches. So it's strictly a roll fit thing. So I would be interested in knowing if we're getting 2 different D variants or a D and an E. I would hope it's a D and an E. Because certainly the AH-64E, the Apache Guardian, has got enough different to make it a very worthwhile boxing. But it'll be a big old lump of plastic. It's a big old, the Apache is not a small helicopter.
No. 35th scale as well. We've had blimey, we're going back the Revell kit over nearly 40 years ago now. That's been around for a while. There is also a 35th scale Apache, which was marketed by several Chinese manufacturers. By all accounts, not a very good kit.
No, I've seen some sort of pictures and stuff of it, and it's not very good. It's worth saying that the Revell one was 32nd, not
that's what I mean. Yeah.
I'm sort of better disposed towards 35th scale for aircraft than I was a few weeks ago if this is going to become a thing, because if you got the AH-1Z from Academy, you've got the Apache. So it's I'm a bit more sort of favorably disposed towards 135th, and this will be a beautiful project. You could really get stuck into the painting on this. Get into the airbrushing on this. But exactly what we're going to get in the box, we'll have to wait and see. In terms of a lot of, because the Apache, a lot of countries use the Apache, a lot of countries use the D, a lot of countries are upgrading to E's. So I wouldn't imagine there'll be an A at any point, which is a bit of a shame in some ways. But I would be surprised if we get an A. But various D's and an E will be. Hopefully, we'll get a British D model with all the high DAS and stuff equipment unique to the British D. yeah.
A
Overall,
big thumbs up, I think, is a good way of putting that one.
yeah, I'm sort of, I'm not sure I will be buying one because it's not my scale.
No.
Having said that, in the way of these things, if it's impressive enough, some things are hard to resist if they're impressive enough, aren't they? And if this kit turns up, and bearing in mind Tacom are doing really, really great stuff these days, it may be one of those where you get the Tamiya effect, where as soon as you see the box and you see the bits in the box, it's built in your head and you buy one. And then promptly, possibly never build it, but we'll see. So
I was like that 2 years ago with the Italeri F-35B. I was asked to build one, and I thought, F-35's not interested. But then I had a look in the box, and I thought, well, actually, this is quite nicely done. Again, we spoke about this the other week. In the 72nd scale kit, the RAM panels are a bit overdone. But the more I got into it, the more I was enjoying it. And when it came to that slightly hair-raising moment where I had to start putting all the assemblies together at the final stage, and all the undercarriage doors and all the all that.
There's a lot going on with the F-35B, isn't there?
Yeah, but when that was done, I remember thinking I liked it. I thought it was a good kit. It's like I say, RAM panels are overdone, but I like that kit anyway. We had a couple of people just reminding us. Yes, we've got the alarm set here, and a couple of people are reminding us here that. Steve Moore says, will there be observing the minute silence at 8 p.m? And Mike Williams says, don't forget the national 1 minute silence at 8 p.m. for the Queen. Yeah, we've got the alarm set here for 1 minute tonight, eight rather. So we'll be observing that. Don't you worry. We will crack on with the next one. And well, this is a subject matter that rarely gets kitted these days. He said, but I'm being, it's a double bluff, that, because people are thinking, yeah, that's right, JM, yeah, phantoms, there's too many phantoms. No, I'm being doubly ironic, because me, Drew, when people say things like, oh no, not another phantom, it's like, look, they sell. These are the
Bring on the phantoms, I say.
This is the subject matter that keeps kit companies in business. So Meng have decided.
Right in saying that's Shigeo Koike box art as well.
It is. As far as we know, this is an original Meng tooling. We don't think it's a rebox of somebody else's kit.
Oh, Meng have never reboxed anybody else's, have they?
I don't think they have. No.
No, so, Meng have no history of reboxing anybody else's. So this. It's worth saying that as of yet, I've still not seen any confirmation from Meng on this. This is literally the only information we have on this at the moment. Is this, box top, and it's interesting that it's an F4G, because we've just had the Zucomora F4G released. Now I'm going to go out on a limb and say that my preferred model, bearing in mind the Super Hornet that I've got in build from Meng, is probably going to be the Meng over the Zucomora. I would imagine, bearing in mind the cost of the Super Hornet is around the £50 mark in the UK, it's going to be significantly cheaper than the Zucomora kit, which will be around the £80-85 mark in the UK. So I think this has got a lot to commend it. And like I say, given the recent quality of Meng's releases with the Super Hornet and things like that, and the Chieftain I've also got in build. Funnily, I'm looking up now and I've got two Meng boxes and both partly built kits there on the build pile, shall we say. I see people there saying, didn't they rebox the Fokker? I don't think that was a rebox just so much as they took the molds over. So I'm very enthusiastic about this. I do want to pick up the Zucomora F4G when I can get hold of it. That's been released now, and I also want to pick up this because the F4G is a great subject. It's the Wild Weasel Phantom. was pretty much the last of the US Air Force Phantoms to see combat in Desert Storm in 1991. There's a variety from the original Southeast Asia with white codes and stuff and grey undersides, through the Southeast Asia or wraparound, and then the European 1 scheme, and then the Hill Grey 2. And it's an aircraft. It's a subject that's got a lot of memories for me, because we used to see the Spangdahlem ones at UK air shows, and I can always remember how clean they were. I'm thinking about 1988, I think it was. They bought an F4E and an F4G from Spangdahlem to Fairford, and they both looked like they'd been freshly resprayed in European 1. They were both absolutely gleaming. Sparkling new paint, and they were beautiful. So yeah,
like I say, this has yet to be completely officially confirmed, but a lot of other outlets are also reporting this. So
I'm going to suggest that if that's not real, somebody has done one of the best fake jobs I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because there's absolutely nothing about that looks anything other than
genuine,
spectacular, proper, genuine.
We will keep our fingers crossed on this one, and like I say, Phantoms, they are banker subjects. You can never have too many of them, frankly.
It thrills me, because as a fast jet sort of guy, the more fast jets that come out, the happier I am. So, and if that happens to be Phantom after Phantom after Phantom, I'm good with that as well. But I have to say, I still haven't got a Tamiya F4B. I still haven't got one.
No, I still haven't got a Tamiya M18 Hellcat. So we're working on it, Drew. We're working on it. I'm just having a look here. Some of the comments here. John Connolly says, is 1/35th scale now the standard helicopter scale, or is it a thing? It's been the I'd say it's been the helicopter scale since about 30 years ago, when who was it? It was Dragon started doing. They did a Cayuse in 35th scale. Then MRC
Rectifier Corporation did the AH1W.
So that was the kind of like the birth of 35th scale. Although, going back further in time, Hella Super Freilon.
Hella Super Freelon, is 35th scale, and that was on its own as a 35th scale subject for 25 years or more, wasn't it? Before,
still no 72nd scale Super Freilon. Unbelievable.
I believe is it Clearprop are working on one, aren't they?
They're working on one, but no, I'm thinking in terms of manufacturers, mainstream manufacturers over the last 100 million decades. Hella never went for one in 76. So you'd have thought, when you think of all the eclectic stuff they did, and they had an open goal there, and yet they didn't touch it. I'm just going through some of the comments here. Christian Giles says you cannot have enough Phantom kits in the stash.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
exactly right.
Probably right, actually. I'm not a fan of Phantoms, but I can understand why.
Well, you're wrong then, aren't you? You're even wronger than European hunters.
Hang about. I'm not a fan of Phantoms.
People sorry about him.
But right, and this is an Oxford but I understand their commercial bankability. So, right. A couple of people talking about Meng. Didn't they rebox the Fokker Meng triplane? They did.
I said, it wasn't a rebox. They took them all over.
Yeah, The kit never got released by anybody else. So one from Simon Lewis here. He says, Drew, TY, your YouTube videos. I watched the one on changing colours in airbrush and how you mix up the paint. Made it simple. Had an enjoyable airbrush session because of it. There you go. A satisfied customer, Drew.
Well, thank you very much. Most appreciated. But it's just people overthink changing colours in airbrushes, don't they?
It is.
People overthink it.
I think we do. Yeah, exactly. It's this. We've talked about this before, and people say, "Oh, you can like thoroughly clean the airbrush between colours." No, you don't really have to do that. Strip the airbrush when you've finished spraying for the evening. Well, you can do that, but you'll knacker your airbrush quickly. It's all little things like that. It's kind of like there are truisms, but there are also some things that are just kind of like, kind of like Chris Hemsworth.
A truism is that you need to, you should be cleaning any excess paint from your brush between colours. But that truism also comes with the caveat that it's really, really easy to do that in 30 seconds and move on.
Mm-hmm.
That's, that's how easy it is.
Mm-hmm. And John also says, "Hello guys, seeing Spencer's builds recently is building an old school kit with raised lines now. Okay, I want to try Spencer's method for raised panel lines, and I do have a couple of projects in mind to do that. So I think
it's not a case of it's not a case of whether it's okay or not. It's just if that's what you want to build, and clearly people can still get fabulous results with it. So yeah, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have a look. Yeah, Clear Prop. Yeah, they're doing a super free long. Monogram produced a 24 scale Huey.
Yeah,
did.
Yep.
Any suggestions for a good F4G in 72nd? Hasegawa is still your go-to for that, really, but that hasn't been released for many years either. So that's quite a difficult one in 72nd at the moment. Christian there, a safe bet is that the F4E will follow the G. Yeah, it's standard marketing, isn't it? In that you release the slightly less popular one first, and people like us go out and buy them immediately because they want to see the tool. And then you release the one that's going to be massively popular afterwards. And do it all over again. So, and I would also be very, very surprised if there's not an F4F in due course as well. So, long nose Phantoms, they were the most produced Phantoms. I think there'll be a few boxings of that, an E, F, G. Will there be an EJ? Who knows?
Let's go on to another news item here, and again, people know my shtick now. I'm going to say here's another subject matter that's rarely ever done these days. It is, of course, this is Qatari. There we go. Qatari's 32nd scale Spitfire Mark 1 mid, which they're doing Mark 1A mid. And it's all finally coming together now, and we've got the lovely box art there. That is absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. Isn't that nice?
It's nice, isn't it?
It is nice. But what we've got here is we've got the schemes here. Obviously, that's Alan Deer's famous aircraft, or one of his famous aircraft, rather. Then we have one from 610 Squadron, which this is people think of this as the quintessential.
It's a quintessential Spitfire one, isn't it? That
Battle of Britain Spitfire, but there were a number of Spitfires with the DWK codes. So you've got to be very careful that people jump on this and say, "Oh, that's not the same aircraft," and it's or this is wrong. Well, actually, there were about 2 or 3 aircraft that carried the DWK code. So, but anyway, they're in that one. That's just like definitive Battle of Britain for me. And then they're also doing 234 Squadron, which is a nice one. And I think that, again, it's probably not the same aircraft, but one of these, it was shot down over France earlier on in the war. And this was also, I do believe, the same aircraft that was depicted by Airfix when they did their rejigged Mark 1 in the late 70s.
Small
I don't know if it's the same. Sorry?
Small codes. The codes look very small on it.
Yeah. I'm just going to check that. Airfix Spitfire Mark 1. So I'm doing some live research on the air here,
What's it
folks.
called? Dirty Duck.
Dirty Dick.
Dirty Dick. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very carry on. Let's just have a quick look here. I'm just looking at Airfix Spitfires because they did do. Let's scroll through the old timeline here. Oh goodness me. We'll come back to that one. Yeah, but anyway, they're doing. This is the Qatari Spitfire. So there we go. Those are the schemes for the initial release. Then they've got the gallery here of some of the close-up details of the kit parts or the kit renders, which it does look. I mean, I just like the,
doesn't it?
I like the way that they've got the effect of the metal pinching around the the rivet points there. It does look rather nice. So this is, I think the price they had there was about 107 New Zealand dollars, which unfortunately for our poor little pound is probably going to be equitable these days. But that does look, yeah, like that very much. I think
I like the fact that apparently it would appear that they haven't done the flaps separate.
No, you don't need to do that on a Spitfire. You don't need to do the flaps separate.
Which gets points from me.
Yeah, it's also interesting. We'll look at the instructions in a minute, but it looks like they've done things like the. You can see there in that one how you've got the cowl, you've got the firewall behind the behind that in front of the windscreen, and you've got that top section of the fuselage are all done as single piece moldings.
Yep, no seam line.
No, they've also and the lower cowl as well. They've also gone down the Tamiya route of you trap the tailplane in between the you trap the tail surfaces in between the tail plane itself. Then the rudder rather. Then you put the rudder behind it and lock it all in place, which is what Tamiya did with their 48 scale Mark 1 a couple of years ago. And I like the way they've done that. That looks good.
To me, it just looks it looks simple, and I mean that in the best possible way you can say. You can mean that.
Yeah, straightforward.
This looks like something that isn't going to take much longer to get to painting than a 48th one would. Once you've dealt with the interior, which is going to be really visible in that scale.
Yeah.
It looks to me like you're going to be a couple of days away from starting to paint it, and I really like that. I really like it.
We'll just whiz through the instructions here, and that's unfortunately. I mean, yeah, fair enough. Qatari have put watermarks in it. I can't understand that, so we're not going to dwell too much here. We're going to whiz through it for instructional purposes only. So there's the putting together the instrument panel and the rudder pedals. Then we've got the seat and the armor. It looks like we've got photo etch straps for the seat. I'm not entirely sure. And then here we are putting together the rest of the kind of cockpit assembly and the frames behind the seat, and there we go. I'm starting to paint the cockpit sidewalls and decals to go on things. I mean, this is absolutely stellar kind of research here by Qatari. We've got the throttle and the oxygen regulator there, oxygen bottles, blah blah blah. And also, again, with the Spitfire, it doesn't have a floor. It's got like a shell with the rudder pedals and the channels for the rudder pedals running down the middle. So Spitfire should never have floors. And there we go. That's with more and more bits and pieces going on in the interior. It looks like they've got more decals to go in there as well, and some options. Then we start putting the fuselage together. Now you can see those single piece sections for the upper decking and the firewall. There are the cowl parts. There's the tail planes locking into place. Then we've got a nice spar running down the middle there to put the wheel wells, the wheel wells together. Quite interesting, Drew, that they've got all that kind of stringer detail all the way across the wing there. That's interesting.
I think
Then
it
we've got
opens up possibilities, doesn't it? I think
yeah.
they're kind of designed the kit to be a simple kit to build, and
Mhm.
but with possibilities should you wish to pursue them.
Thankfully, no open gun panels, which is good news. And Revell, take note. You know, the wingtips are molded to the wings. None of this kind of separate wingtips on a Mark 1 kit because they wanted to get other variants out of it. But goodness me, come on. And then we've got, there we go. We're
I
all
mean, even then, my argument would be that you still do a complete wing with cut points if you're going to do another variant.
Yeah, I think the thing there was that they put the wingtips onto another frame, which could then be used if you were doing Mark Fives and things. And it was just like, no, you've done what you've done with the Corsair. You've overcomplicated it, and you've ended up kind of balking it for what you wanted to do. You know, which was a shame. You know, it's a 72nd scale Spitfire, like a Corsair, should be uncomplicated. They over-egged it. Anyway, we're talking about the Qatari kit here, and the Qatari kit at a larger scale is showing how you can do these things, you know, really streamlined and efficiently. I think is a good way of putting that. So we've got all the undercarriage stuff going in there. Again, these are such detailed instructions from Qatari, like wing nut. These are a work of art, a mini reference in themselves, actually. And then we've got the exhausts, and I think they've got two different types of exhaust there, and two different types of prop because you've got the Rotol and the DH prop and spinner and everything. And then we get onto the canopy, and then that's it. And then you're on to the markings and your color schemes, and then the cat gets off my lap finally. I'm going to check that because I think that was the one that was in the first Airfix boxing of the Spitfire Mark 1 in 1979, 1980. Anyway, and there we go. Those are the colour schemes. All in all, I think it's fair to say that that looks like an absolutely first-class package. And that's my alarm, which is reminding me that we are going to have to go off the air in a minute. So there you go. That's Qatari's 1/32nd scale Spitfire Mark 1, which I think we fair to say that looks like a bit of a winner, doesn't it?
I could build that.
I could build that as well.
That's very tempting. That's very tempting.
Yeah. So what we're going to do, folks, is I've just set the alarm to do this. So we are going to go off the air for a minute in a second for the minute silence tonight, and then we'll be back very, very shortly. So whilst we sign off temporarily for a minute to as a mark of respect and remembrance for Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth.
The air raid siren's just gone off here.
Right. So we'll be back very shortly. I thought I'd put some extra safety net around that one just in case. So we're back.
We're back.
We're back. That's right. Okay. Well, as soon as we're back now, I'll talk about this for a second, because this was something I got on my journeys this week, which was a tremendously. Let's move the camera up a bit more. That's better. This was a tremendously exciting find at Dunster Railway Station this week. He says, as his microphone wire falls over. There we go. This was a copy of Roger Freeman's. Oh, try again. There we go. I knew messing around with the. There we go. It's Roger Freeman's The Mighty Eighth: The History of the U.S. 8th Army Air Force. Got this at the National Trust Bookshop at Dunster Castle in just outside Minehead in Somerset. I paid a whopping £5 for this, and those are my little postcards. But this, it's not a particularly kind of photo-heavy book for reference, although there are some nice box art, some nice nose art pictures there and whatever. But what it has got is it's solid information on all the aircraft, the different squadrons and everything. There's some nice paintings in there of schemes, but it is, as you can see, how many pages there are in there. It's a great big thick book, but it is an absolutely bona fide, a definitive reference.
Hey, that is a fine for a favour.
I did actually kind of put it back and thinking I don't want to carry that all around with me all day. And then I stepped out of the little room that the bookshop was in, and then I suddenly thought, "You idiot!" and I was straight back in there. Look at that, Drew.
This is it.
Yeah.
Lord.
Bodney aircraft there.
I immediately want to go and build a Mustang.
Cripes and Mighty. Look, the 72nd scale Airfix one there. Yeah, this is absolutely stellar, this book, and I am so glad that I did walk out there in the end and buy this. Every now and then you go into a bookshop and you are presented with a gift of a bargain, and this certainly was a gift. You can just see it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. This is just fantastic stuff, and I mentioned this to Chris Buchholz, and he was just like, "Yep," and yeah, that is a find, and also that was a £5 going to a deserving charitable cause as well. But yeah, it's honestly always, folks, always, if you've got a National Trust property near you, check their bookshop, because they usually have some really first-class bargains in there. Likewise, always check your local charity shops, because you will be amazed what turns up in there sometimes. But suffice to say, I'm a happy bunny. That's great.
Yeah, I would be happy as well. Yeah. Jim Altegott says, wasn't there supposed to be a TV series about the 8th Air Force? Yes, Masters of the Air. It's still yet to reach us from the makers of Band of Brothers and Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
So I can. It's something to look forward to. Put it that way. And if you haven't read the book Masters of the Air, do so, because it's.
I take it this is Tom Hanks' involvement in this again, is it?
Yeah.
All right, so we're not going to end up with another Red Tails, are we?
No. This is going to be. This is like I say, if you haven't read the book Masters of the Air, do so. It's a very sobering read.
I tried watching Red Tails the other week. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. It's a dismal film, isn't
Funny
it?
enough, there's another one called, I think it's just called The Tuskegee Airmen, that was made about 20 years before.
Yes.
With Cuba Gooding Jr. in it.
Again.
And that's actually not a bad, that's, it's got historical inaccuracies as you'd expect, but as a story, I think it's a far better, far more true.
Yeah. It also doesn't have Star Wars dogfights in it either.
Well, no.
Yeah. Wasn't Lawrence Fishburne in both of those as well? Oh, that's my
I don't
alarm.
know. I don't know.
That's me reminding myself of another alarm there. Go on. Oh, this is an alarming experience, folks. There we go. I'll check that out before the end of the show. Anyway, that was a bargain. We will move on to the next item we is going to be discussing tonight. It's in a similar vein. And
sorry,
this
just to interrupt, Dan Wood, High Speed Silver. Yeah, LP11, Dan. Tamiya's LP11 is a jack of all trades. You can use it for natural metal, high speed silver, depends on the coating you put over it. Yeah, AS12 airframe silver, or the lacquer equivalent LP11.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. That it can be sprayed straight out of the spray can, and it just gives an absolutely beautiful finish. So yes, right. Yeah, Jim Aldergott says time to feed the cat. Now trust me, he feeds himself. Right, well, this actually segues quite nicely from the 8th Air Force in some respects, because this is Dora Wings, and this is their P-47 B/C Thunderbolt, the short Thunderbolt, really, the the short fuselage Thunderbolt. You what? Sorry,
the stumpy one.
Yeah, the stumpy one. But this, I am especially looking forward to this, because obviously they did the Lancer last year, the P-43 Lancer, which is part of that whole kind of Thunderbolt evolution.
They've done the P-35 as well, haven't they? So they've done the P-35, which is where the story starts, the P-43, and now the P-47. So,
but this is recognisably a Thunderbolt, albeit, like I say, a little bit on the stumpy side. But this does, Dora Wings, they're turning out some nice stuff now. Interesting mix of schemes. Obviously, you're a bit limited because they're all going to be kind of like natural metal and olive drab and neutral grey. But this one in particular is rather nice, and this is from the 56th Fighter Group.
I like the fact that's got medium green as well.
Yeah, on the trailing edges and leading edges.
And they've all got a really, really interesting division between the grey and green. That one's quite wavy. If you ever look at the previous ones that you showed, they're really, really wavy. Which makes that's a sort of little detail that attracts me to a scheme. Where something is largely just entirely conventional, but something stands out.
Yeah.
So and these are also early Thunderbolts, so they've got the flat keel as well. They don't have the bulged keel where they all the pipe work went for I think it was for the drop tank. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that's a nice scheme. That I think, as and when I bag one of these, because I do like Thunderbolts, I think that'd be the one I'd build. And then they're also doing a Brazilian one as well.
That's nice. I like that. Yeah. I do like that. I mean, I think all the schemes have got something to commend them. I think. I really do. I like the Brazilian one, but I like one of the very early ones. One of the earlier schemes you're showing with a very wavy division would be for me.
Interesting thing from John Connolly here. Oh, actually, John, we'll address your thing at the end of the show, actually, because that's John's having an interesting experience, which you and I might have an opinion on, Drew. But we'll talk about it at the end of the show. Gordon J says, "Does anybody ever manage to make a mess of their models right at the very end?" Gordon, everybody manages to make a mess of their models at the very end. It's part of a modelling rite of passage.
Welcome to building models.
Yeah, welcome to building models. For example, breaking aerials off. Yep. Splashing thinner onto their perfectly applied paint job. Oh yes. I've done both today. Yep.
Picking the model up to have a look at it when you finished it and not realizing you've got lacquer thinner on your thumb and leaving a great big thumbprint in the model.
Or indeed having a bath and sitting on your lovely little tank model. So
you need to let that go.
That gives me no end of mirth. That does. So
I let that go years ago. You need to let it go.
You certainly did let it go. Yeah, it's That's a nice one. That I mean, let's have a look of the schemes, and you know they're going to do more, and they're doing this in 48th and 72nd as well. But see, that one's okay, but I like the early roundels.
Yes,
That's something you don't necessarily kind of associate with a Thunderbot, and it's got that. This was the Lucky 7, so this was like one of the kind of commemorative production models.
I suspect that one will be my choice.
Okay, I suspect that one will be my choice, and I like the fact that the cowl is made up of 3 different colours: yellow,
It's
red,
really
and
cool,
blue.
isn't it? It's really
Yeah,
cool.
it's nice that. But then again,
yeah. It's easy to forget that how involved the Brazilians were in World War II, especially in the Mediterranean theatre, weren't they? In Italy and stuff like that, they were very heavily involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but Dora Wings smashing it out of the park again. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one turning up. Because, like I say, I've got the Lancer. And I do like the Lancer. In fact, there was another kit that they've just released which completely fell off the radar with us, and perhaps we'll talk about it the next show.
GW21.
No, it was of that ilk. I tell you what, let me jump onto Facebook and we'll talk about it right now. So let's go off brand for a second. Bear with me, folks. Let's just. It was one of those ones that I was like, I don't know how we missed not talking about this, because it looks absolutely, looks absolutely stellar. Where are we? Bum ba dum ba dum ba dum ba dum. Scrolls down. Dum ba dum ba dum ba dum ba dum. Dora Wings. Here we are. Nothing like doing this live on the show. And where is it? Here it is. It was the Volti Vanguard.
Right. Yeah.
Volti Vanguard. Yeah. So close all chats because you don't want to see my chats. Trust me. Here we go. There we go. Right. I'll just share the screen to this. I don't know how we haven't spoken about this kit because, like I say, it came up on my feed today, and that's lovely. What's not to like?
Yeah.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, it's like a typical late 1930s design, isn't it? It's kind of that kind of stepping stone between biplanes and high performance monoplanes.
But no, I don't know how I've missed that one. I don't know how we haven't spoken about it. I don't know how we haven't even discussed any CAD renders of it or anything. All I know is that it almost looks like a kind of like a bit of a Miles Master, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's I like the camera. I like the box art's fabulous. That's one of those pieces of box art that makes you want to build a model.
No, that's just stuff to do with it. No, that's Volti Vengeance. This is off their timeline. So it's again. I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for this one when I see it out and about and try and do a report on it. I just wish I had the time to be able to sit down and build all these things because
Now I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly.
I'm conscious of the fact that this year I've not built as much as I should have because life. And I really want to have a kind of like a clear run of just building things. But yeah, that's Dora Wings. So that's the P47B/C. So that looks that looks like that's going to be featured on this show. Let's put it that way. This next kit has already been featured on this show twice, and well, we're doing it the third time because I know somebody who's going to be all over this. Like a rash. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, bring me your MiGs. Yeah,
bring me your MiGs.
MiG-23 MLA. This is a third boxing. It's worth noting that this is an advanced boxing, and I think the advanced boxing means it's going to have extra etch and stuff in it and a full weapons sprue. The other ones that aren't the standard boxings are just going to have drop tanks. Although the sprue will be made available for purchase separately. So this advanced boxing is going to have more in the box. But in terms of color schemes, yeah, you've got this Cuban one, which is
that's nice.
Yeah, very. I mean, there's a lot going on there. There's a lot going on there.
That's quite an interesting masking exercise, isn't it?
Yeah, that's not going to be that's not going to be a straightforward model to paint. But if you do, there's a Soviet one in grey.
That, on the other hand, is a fairly straightforward one to paint.
Well, it is, but the way these aircraft weathered, again, it was like Spencer with the Bronco earlier this year, where he said it's a really basic colour, but you need to make it interesting.
Yeah.
So it could have its own challenges, shall we say, in terms of doing, painting it one colour, but making it interesting to look at. So, and then the final one is, North Korean Air Force.
Which is in a 3-tone colour, which appears to be a grey, another grey, and then kind of like RLM. It's not RLM 65, but you know what I mean. It's that pale.
I mean, it looks like it's ghost greys on top and a light blue underside, isn't it?
Yeah.
Almost. And it's certainly the pattern is vaguely sort of ghost greyish, isn't it? Sort of F-15ish. I have to admit, this did catch me out a little bit by surprise because it had completely escaped my attention that North Korea operated the MiG-23. I tend to think of them as they have some Su-25s. They had lots of MiG-17s and MiG-19s and MiG-29s, but it completely escaped me that they operated a MiG-23. So this was kind of like, moment. I don't know why. I mean, I've got enough I've got enough books on the MiG-23 in my stash here because it's an airplane that I'm very, very keen on.
Well, let's put it this way. I think the chances that you'll be building at least 2 of these before the end of the year, I wouldn't want to bet on it. Let's put it that way.
No, I mean, as soon as as soon as I can get my hands on one of these, it's going to hit the bench, instantly, isn't it? Because it's let's just look at it. It's I appreciate that as a, its service history perhaps isn't all that, but as a design,
yeah, who cares? It's a great looking aeroplane.
It's just a great looking aeroplane, isn't it? It's a fabulous looking aeroplane. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to getting my hands on this as soon as possible. And
it does look rather splendid.
Yeah, and it's all gone a bit quiet on the ICM front because ICM are doing a MiG-23 ML as well. That's gone a bit quiet. I mean, given what's going on
I'd say they've probably got other things to contend with at the moment.
Given what's going on in Ukraine currently, I mean, it's entirely possible that they've taken a step back for a while because ClearProp are doing it and are that close to release. So, I wouldn't put that. I wouldn't say that's beyond the realms of possibility because the manufacturers in Central and Eastern Europe have presented a very unified front this year, haven't they?
Absolutely.
From members of Edouard's family.
I was going to say, have their European counterparts. So
from members of Edouard providing accommodation for the family members of Ukrainian model companies through to this. I get the impression that everybody's sort of reading from the same hymn book at the moment. So what's going on, I don't know with the ICM one, but until then, we've got this ClearProp one imminent, I would say, within the next few weeks, hopefully.
Looks fabulous, though. Just really
and given the quality of recent, I mean, I keep going back to that ClearProp Mohawk. I still haven't built, but is behind me, and it is just absolutely beautiful, absolutely fabulous. So I'm very confident with this, shall we say? So,
well, here we go. Workshop news here, folks. Dun, 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 dun. We've actually got some grey primer on the Austin now. Not exactly kind of like hard to do. Although, given my attention level and time management at the moment, pretty much this is a minor miracle. I haven't glued these side panels in place yet, so I can just pop them out. It also keeps the gluing surfaces reasonably reasonably clear as well. I'm just going to have to go over this with a little bit of Scotch-Brite because for some reason I thought my spray booth was quite clean, but this isn't too bad actually, and this sprayed up rather nicely. The roof, on the other hand, goodness me, the roof ended up looking like it ended up looking like the floor of a saloon in a Western bar. It was absolutely shocking. But as I was saying to Drew this evening, that's the beauty of Tamiya fine primer, is that even this was like 5 minutes after I sprayed it, I was able to go in there and just polish it out. So if you haven't got any Tamiya fine grade primer, which is this stuff, no, that's the surface primer. Turn a light. Let's get the fine grade primer. Oops, drops it on the floor. Oh, Comedy Central here.
Right, I'm there, John.
Sorry. Yeah, there we go. Get some of this. If you've never used any of this, get some of this. It's good stuff. It's absolutely bomb-proof. And like I say, this was applied. This was applied actually now an hour ago, but you can just. I was 5 minutes after I sprayed this. I was just going in there and polishing the dust particles out of it. It's stellar stuff, isn't it, Drew?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's a modelling lifesaver. This fine the Tamiya primers. I know some people still like using their Halfords grey primer. Fair enough. You know, all power to you. I've got to say, having used those down the years and then become attuned to the Tamiya primers. I mean, there's the surface primer, then there's the fine grey primer. This really does give a finish that is second to none. It's just absolutely, it's almost good enough to be a top coat actually. But I'm also looking.
Yeah, I've used it as a top coat before now, so
yeah. And I can still see I've got some particles there, and I need to get rid of. But yeah, honestly, Tamiya fine grey surface primer is your modelling safety net. So I'd always recommend everybody go out and buy a can. So there we go. So yeah, so hopefully we're going to get some paint on that this week, because change of plan. I think, did I say this on the last show? I'm not doing the Cornter one. I'm doing.
No, you're doing
Queen Elizabeth one. Yeah,
Princess Elizabeth
one rather. Yeah. So
yeah.
Yeah, it's a dodge, but no, I think that'd be a nice one to do actually. So yeah, we're doing the Princess Elizabeth one. So I've got all the paints for that. So yeah, bit of luck. Where we've got everything here is sub-assemblies, so we'll get around to painting that this week. Fingers crossed. Right, we're gonna go back to a comment that Gordon J said back here. No, it wasn't Gordon J. It was. Let's go back. Where was it? It was something to do with.
I have no idea.
I know. Here we go. It was John Connolly. Here we go. Here's one for you, Drew. John Connolly says, "Holly guys." Well, it's not Christmas yet, John, but I know what you mean. Can I ask, am I being a bad guy for promoting airbrushing in a Facebook group and being called out as a bad guy?
No, you're not.
Yeah, I think. Are you saying, John, that you mentioned airbrushing and some very ardent hand brushers reacted badly against your advice? In which case, I would sincerely suggest is A, no, you're not a bad guy, and B, leave that group. Just let them get on with it.
Yeah. Along with glossing, it's one of those arguments I will no longer have.
Yeah.
It's I'm more than happy to express my opinion, but having expressed my opinion, I won't argue about it.
I was in that Glastonbury a couple of years ago, and I was walking past St Mary Magdalene Church, and there was a display by the entrance explaining to me why the Earth wasn't round. And I stopped, and my friend, she literally grabbed my arm and said, "Come away." And I was like, yeah, there's no point. It would be like me explaining airbrushing to derp. There's no point. Do something else. Do something else. So I would say, John, no, honestly, don't waste your time. If that's their attitude, you've always got a warm welcome on our page. So just walk away from it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's one of the things we both discussed on this show before. There are, I think it's fair to say, Drew, contentious types out there. It's just not worth it.
Absolutely. If people want to paint, hand brush, then fine. It's not a problem. But my argument will always be to use an airbrush if you can, if you can afford it, and if you have the abilities and space to use an airbrush. Not that you need a lot of space. I'm always going to argue that an airbrush is better, because 99% of people can get a better finish with an airbrush than they'll ever get with a paintbrush. And then there's 1% of people who are master paintbrushes, which is which is fair enough.
All right, here we go. This is what Stuart Templeton's saying. It's interesting. He says, as I've been called out for not airbrushing in several groups, I've even been called not a proper modeler because I don't use one. The flip side of that, Stuart, is, again, if that's what people are saying, walk away from the group. You don't have to justify how you make models to other people. This is what we always say: your workbench, your rules. If you're in a group and people are kind of like going, "Oh, airbrushes," walk away. And if you're in a group where people go, "Oh, don't use an airbrush," walk away. It's not worth it. It really isn't.
You're wasting your time and energy. If you want to use a paintbrush, you use a paintbrush.
And Jim Aldergott reminds me here, the Shackleton affair. Yeah, the Shackleton affair. That's the experience I had with Spencer. Well, it's the experience Spencer had with an irate gentleman who didn't like.
I know. I missed the entire exchange because I was off getting coffee.
You were, yeah. I know. It was hilarious, actually. I could have stepped in and immediately settled the argument for Spencer being responsible for the decals in that kit, but I decided to step back and watch the whole thing gloriously play out in front of me, and we'll relive. For anybody who's wondering what on earth are you two talking about, and it's some kind of private joke, do you know what? We'll do at Christmas. We'll do a best of. We will go back through some of our favorite anecdotes and relive them for you. So there we go.
And some of them may or may not be biscuit.
Yeah, based. Exactly. It might not be biscuit based as well. Steve Moore says, airbrush was the single biggest improvement in the quality of my modelling output. Yeah, same here. Same here.
It's like Chris Marston, they're a brush painter and proud of it. That's fine. Again, absolutely fine.
Yeah. You only have to justify to yourself what you do on your workbench. So it's like you say, your workbench or your rules and whatever. And if people get sniffy one way or the other, just walk away from it. It's not worth it. Herman Handbrush, great name. He says, I just got here. Well, it's probably the train was late. He says, are people actually criticised for using airbrushes? This is almost the first time I heard this. Yeah, Herman, there are groups and individuals and people who seem to think that modelling should remain in at their level, or their level of comprehension, or their level of a time period or whatever, which fine, I don't have a problem with it, but it's the fact that they, like I say, you get it in both camps. You get the people who are so so kind of like, oh, you don't need air, you can get a really good finish with a paintbrush and whatever. Okay, fair enough. But then you get people who say, oh no, people who hand brush, you should just get an airbrush. And it's two sides of an extreme and not very nice coin. So
again, it's fine to express a preference if it comes up in conversation. Yeah, it's not fine to berate somebody for not agreeing with, for wanting to do something differently.
Yeah.
So
Stuart Templeton says, here we go. He says, mind you, I got my first airbrush set up after 4 or 5 years of it. Looking forward to learning how to use it. Well, Stuart, that's the fun part. I think once you've had that first sojourn, and you see, I remember this when the first time I ever used my little Humbrol Modeller's airbrush, which was just like a Badger 150 spray gun. And I just remember when I saw that paint finish without any brush marks in it, I was just like, I want to do this for the rest of my modelling life. I mean, it was a shocking finish, with the amount of dust that was in it, but that's not the point. 40 years later, so glad I'm not getting dust on my models anymore. But
clumsy.
Yeah, exactly. And Dan Wood says, do the Shackleton affair as a piece of theatre, but Drew plays JM. JM plays Spencer, and Spence plays the moron.
I was going to make a joke there, but Spence is not here to defend himself.
He's not here to defend himself. So we will move on swiftly.
Yeah. Moving on.
Oh, Dan, you are in the band, honestly. Everybody's talking about paintbrushes and airbrushes and things, but like I say, it's horses,
which is fine. As a discussion, it's a fine discussion to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's just it's not one that I deem worthy of arguing about anymore.
Yeah. Gordon J says, I think this is the golden age of modelling just now. Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's one of those bizarre things.
It's frustratingly golden because you just can't keep up.
Yeah, it's the irony is in terms of actual numbers of people making models these days, it probably is a fraction of what it was, say, 40, 50, 60 years ago. But there's something has happened with the dynamic of how kits are produced and sold and everything, that you've got more kit manufacturers now than there ever been, ever. Also, and we've said this before, but this does not remain any less true, is that there are more new kits announced almost every month these days than there used to be in the entirety of the 1980s. Not just any given year in the 1980s, the whole decade of the 1980s. Certainly this year, we've lapped the 1980s as a decade.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you think in the last 3 days, we've had announcements of a range of 1/35th scale Apaches and another new tool, Phantom. That's in the last 3 days.
Yeah. What did we have prior to that? We had there was the thing that tickled your fancy. What was the oh God, what was it? There was another brand new range of kits. There was the tanks we were talking about. I can't think what they were, but because so much, this is the problem. So many new kits come out that you just suddenly you lose focus.
You're talking about the Sergeant York and stuff.
Sergeant York, that was it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's just you literally. There you go. Bavu says M247.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I'm glad
and I kind of look at the immediate stuff. That I must pay Andrew, Mr. Hills, who's on holiday at the moment, so I've got a break. I owe him probably £100 for models at the moment, and I've just looked at my pre-order list at Hannants, and it's about 160 quid's worth. So I mean, and I'm just trying to keep up with stuff that I think I'm going to build.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, who knows? But it's every year is a new golden age at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting comment from Robert Johnson. He says gamers helped the amount of people interested in models. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, World of Tanks and War Thunder are doing amazing things for the model scene, because people want something else when they're not playing on the computer. They want a representation of the things they're playing, don't they?
Yeah. And of course, it doesn't hurt when you've got Superman making models.
Who? What?
Henry Cavill.
Oh, Henry Cavill. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. If you'd said The Witcher, I'd have known what you meant.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, and we just got Steve Moores. Here we go. 2022 could be one of the best years for new releases.
Well, it's the best year for releases since 2021.
Yeah,
the best year since 2020. So
there we go. Yeah, we go. Yeah, Jerry Doyle. Every kit. If I built every kit that I intend building, I need another 100 years on this earth. Yeah, and that's just the ones this year, Jerry. I mean, it's. I am kind of like conscious of the fact that I've been. It's just like I say, real life has got in the way of my modelling in the last couple of months or so.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really do anything at all this week for various reasons.
Yeah.
And I've just sat down again today and really got stuck in again.
Mm.
But yeah, it's these things happen with advancing age. I'm afraid sometimes you just lose the impetus a little bit, and then you have to find it again.
But then when you do, it comes back with a vengeance.
Yes. And you know, I can see me probably, bear in mind we have tomorrow off, I could see me sitting here till the early hours of the morning now, just beavering away and doing stuff.
Howell says TACOM are releasing M20, M247, M48A3, M48A3, M4, M48A5 simultaneously. They really want me to go broke. Yep.
I mean, luckily of those three, the M247 is the only one that really, you know, captures my my imagination. So I suppose I'm quite lucky in that. But again, we go back to the fact that, you know, I don't build 1/35th scale helicopters, but if that TACOM Apache gets released and it looks suitably spiffing in the box, it's going to be a Tamiya moment, isn't it? Suddenly it's built in my head, and you know, I'm going to buy one.
Herman says, if anyone can recommend good sites on YouTube, etc., for hand brushing, I'm all eyes and ears. Though I have hand brushed for years, I still feel at sea sometimes. There you go, folks. If you can help Herman out here, post
Herman. One thing I would say is, if you're looking for good hand brushing stuff on YouTube, look for the miniature painters.
Yeah.
Look for the people doing Warhammer and stuff like that. Those sorts of miniatures, because those guys are masters at brush painting. So search those guys out.
Yeah. Rob Johnson, this is a very good point. He says computer-aided design with the molds and research in plastics has taken the hobby to the next level. It has. It's certainly. I mean, compared to the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s to a great degree, where stuff was all being kind of drawn on paper. And then it was all the molds were cut in wood, and everything was pantograph.
Workflows are just massively refined now. Yep. It's just, you know, and you know, whereas a master that needed something correcting would have to go back to the workshop and be, you know, completely. Now it's all visualized, and you know, it goes back to the CAD designer to be modified. And that's not to say that's not an involved project, you know, not an involved task. It is, but it's just that very workflow means that it goes faster. And you know, so it's, you know, Hasegawa, even up to 2002, 2003, they were still using old-fashioned wooden masters. You know, it's only very recently, you know, that's changed for them. But other people have gone, you know, especially the Chinese manufacturers, your TACOMs and your Mengs and those sorts of people, they've just nailed the workflow.
Travis Thompson said, in terms of hand brushing, he says, or Lincoln Wright, he does Mac hand brushed with lacquers. Yep, that's another good one.
Like I say, but always look at what I'm really trying to say is just look outside of your sphere of interest for ideas. You know, I mean, I will watch as many miniature painting videos as other model videos on YouTube, because I love watching what they do.
Well, I know Spencer was talking about this, these miniature painters who do non-metallic metallic finishes. You know, so it's kind of like it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think that's fine, but that only works from one perspective.
Yeah,
that's, you know, what's the idea of them? Simon Lewis. What's the idea of the model on tube called Storm? I don't know. Sorry, I'd have to look again.
I can't see that. No,
it's only 3 or 4 comments up. Simon Lewis.
Okay. Oh yeah, here we go. What was the idea of the model on Usual Star? I think he's saying no. We'll have to look that one up. And Powell makes a very good point. He says,
absolutely. I mean, there's no, you know, you know, I wouldn't argue that for a second. But then again, it does mean that the prospect for correcting that or somebody else doing it better is now increased because it's the workflows are that much more refined. And I'm steering very carefully away from saying it's easier than it used to be, because it's not. The workflows are refined. So
there's a question. I'll let you answer this one, Drew. Which is the better Sunderland kit, Airfix or Special Hobby?
Must I? I mean, the Special Hobby one is clearly better, but it's still not a great model. And the Italeri one, as a build, I suspect the Italeri one is probably the easiest of the lot, but it's got horrendous surface detail on it. So the wait for a good for a decent Sunderland, well done, goes on Airfix. Looking at you.
Look at me. Airfix. I don't design the kits.
No, I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at Airfix.
Right. Okay. We've had some comments about that. Kinetic has published some pictures of their new F16. I can't find them.
John Chung had pictures on his Facebook page. A lot of pictures.
I won't take them off his page. Then we'll try and bring them on the next show. Then
I'm sure if you ask John, he won't mind, so we can do that next time. Suffice it to say, it's looking very, very nice indeed. But after things like the Pucara, this shouldn't be a surprise, should it? Kinetic are another one of those manufacturers who have really, really upped their game. Almost exponentially in recent years. So yeah, the F16 is looking really, really nice, really superb. Again, is it going to be perfect? Well, no, but nothing is. There are people picking little bits out, and I'm like, really, is this where we are now? And in terms of this being the golden age. As I've said on here before, if you're picking that sort of thing as a fault with a kit, we ain't doing too bad. Do you know what I mean? I think there's been some talk this week about the Zucamura's Phantom canopy, the rear canopy, not having the right curve or something on it, and it's like, if this is where we are, I'm not saying it's not incorrect, because it might be, but if these are the level of problems that we're picking to berate manufacturers these days, we're not doing too bad, are we? So
I'm thinking back in the old days when stuff was really no, I wasn't doing tell. Back in the old days, that was my Ian McKellen, for God's sake. It was stuff was wrong, and it was really wrong. It was wrong, and that's what you had to contend with. Nowadays, it's like, well, there's like a hatch missing on a rear fuselage or whatever, and suddenly the sky's fallen in, and it's like, really, sense of perspective here.
Yeah. And Pavel says there, look, people are already complaining about molded on leading edge flaps on the F16. It's like, really?
I'm sure people will complain the Qatari Spitfire hasn't got drop flaps. So
yeah. It's just regardless, ignoring the fact that every F16 that's ever parked on the ground has 2 degrees of upward deflection on the leading edge flaps, which is barely visible in a parked aircraft anyway, but it's 2 degrees up. Why would you want them separate?
There we go. Robert Jackson teasing us here. He says, "I have two of the old Kinetic F16. Good kit, just test fit." Nothing wrong with the old Kinetic F16s. They just had the bad fortune to come out very, very close to when the Tamiya one came out. So
yeah, I mean the nose was visibly wrong on it, but that said, thousands and thousands of them have been built in hundreds of different boxings by people who have been very happy with it. So I wouldn't. I was put off the model because of the nose shape, but many people weren't. You make your choice, don't you? But 10, 12, 13 years hence, Kinetic it's pretty much Kinetic's first
2009.
After the F84, it's I wasn't a fan of the kit, and I was put off it. But that said, 14, 13, 14 years hence, Kinetic have decided to go back and revisit it and put it right. If we all hold hands and concentrate, they'll do the same with the Mirage 2000 next year. So,
anyway, right. Oh, I've got to get just the right touch. Too heavy and it's too dull. Not enough. It doesn't make a noise. Perfect. There we go. Any other business?
No, not from me. No. Again, it took on a life of its own, didn't it?
Yeah, it always does. The good ones always do take a life of their own. I tell you what I want to do at some stage is I want to do a thing where I think we should both do a thing where we get one of our favourite magazine articles and talk about it.
Could
that
do,
make
yeah.
sense to you?
Yeah.
It's one of my favourite magazine articles, and it's not even anything that is of interest to me in terms of modelling, although kind of like it still piques my interest, should I say? And that was the scale models from the mid-70s when they did the 3 F-15 kits. And that's just
yeah. I mean, if you the one that immediately springs to my mind is again scale models, but it was where I can't remember who it was, but built the Monogram B-36. What a
was that
fabulous!
Ken? It might have been Ken Duffy.
I think it was Ken. I think it was Ken. But it's just I remember the article being something I read time and time again because it was just an absolutely wonderfully written article. But yeah, you can go on forever.
No, we'll pick some of our favourite magazine articles and we'll have them under the camera and we'll discuss why we thought they were great. Because I keep thinking about that F-15 because especially with Spence building Monogram stuff at the moment. And and Ray Rimmel's one of my Facebook friends and whatever, and that was just like, it was such a great era of scale models. It really was. Just pow.
Yeah. Steve Moores, are you guys planning on attending Scale Model World 2022? Well, this is something that John and I have to discuss. I mean, I'm angling towards yes, personally speaking, at the moment.
I'm angling towards yes, but it will only be the one night overstopper, not doing 2 night overstops. So, and that's what we have to. That's why you and I have to kind of like discuss that. Right. I can't do 2 nights. I can only do 1 night. So
really,
yeah, I'm not keen on doing 2 nights. I'm really not. 1 night I can cope with. 2 nights, no, can't do it. So we'll have to negotiate that.
Yeah, we'll have a chat about it at some point.
Yeah, we'll have a chat about that. And I think Mr. Farmer was booking some hotel rooms, so I'll have a chat with him and see what the situation is with that as well. So, we'll negotiate that. Downward says the mag article blew me away the most was Jen Wright Shackleton a few years ago in FX Model World. That build was stunning. Yeah, absolutely. But I bet she didn't get anybody bending her ear about the fact that the markings were only applied for 1 flight. So let it go. I know. Let it go. I know.
I think that build was stunning is pretty much default for Jen, really.
Yeah, Jen's rubbish models are my aspirations. So
yes.
Robert Johnson. Yeah, scale models. 1/72 scale F-14 Hasegawa and Fujimi is a good one. Yep, that's a cracker. That is.
But really, you can go through it. I mean, the whole of the mid-80s stuff with Ted Taylor. All those articles were fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely. That is, well, I haven't got anything else. I haven't got any other business. Well, apart from there won't be a show on Wednesday because I'm taking the whole day off on Wednesday. I've been working solidly for about the last 2 weeks, actually, solidly, trying to clear difficult projects that won't clear themselves. Which has been a lot of proofing artwork and reproofing it, and oh god, I get boss-eyed in the end. But yeah, I'm taking Wednesday off, so there will be no show on Wednesday. Okay. But we will be back. I mean, you might do one on Tuesday night if you want. You want to do one on Tuesday night?
See how we feel. Obviously, my week's a bit.
Yeah, your week's a bit fraught. So let's see how things go. But yeah, there won't be one on Wednesday, so I apologise for that, folks. But we'll be back with a vengeance on Sunday. Which is what, the last Sunday in September. Where did September go, Drew? That's not fair. It's not fair. February, which is the shortest month of the year, goes on for about 6 months, and then
at least it's markedly cooler.
Just market. It's chilly this morning. Goodness
Well,
me.
this is market, and this is the first time we've been on this show for the last 6 months where I haven't had the fan on.
Yeah.
So
this will be the this will be the first show for the next 12 months where I don't have the heating on. So, in fact, we're probably getting to the depths of winter, and I'll be buried under jumpers here, looking like the Michelin Man, because unless unless.
Well, I got one of those gigantic, cuddly, oversized hoodies this week. Well, and I put it on to sit down this morning and have breakfast, and then I had to take it off because I was overheating. So
that's all right. Where'd you get that from?
The Cuddly website. It's Kuddly. But it's like one size fits all. And they're absolutely gigantic, but they're incredibly warm and snuggly, and for winter.
I'm just looking that up actually. Let's have a look. Cuddly, 2 for £79. Okay, well, I think I've got the budget for that at the moment, but that's interesting. I don't think I want the pink one with the unicorns on. I don't know. I think I could carry that look.
I think I'd get away with it. But no, it's just that sort of thing. That it's just they're incredibly warm and snuggly, and so there.
Yeah. And as Wayne reminds us, this is excellent. Wayne says Airfix Autumn is rolling along. Yeah, we're sticking with that. We are still sticking with Airfix Autumn. There we go. It's going to run. It's going to carry on running for the next couple of months because I've got this ambulance to finish off. So I need to be putting my finger out and getting that done, and then I can return and get my. Indeed, here it is, looking at me here, the big Airfix Spitfire, which I was enjoying right up until the ambulance came along. But yeah, that'll be it. And pending any stuff that needs to be built for the hobby company for Telford, I think that's pretty much my my builds for the next couple of weeks. Which is that's a fatal error to say that, don't you, Drew? Pending anything that needs building by the hobby company, because Mr. Farmer's going to turn up and say we need this building, and it's like, all right, fine. So
he's probably going to turn up on a Wednesday and say we need it by Monday.
Yeah, exactly. But we are equal to the challenge, aren't we?
Done it before, we'll do it again.
We've done it again. We've done it. I seem to remember. We'll tell this story very quickly. I think it was just like 4 years ago where you had busted a gut to get something done for Telford, and it was all done and everything. And you were just like, now I'm going to take a couple of days off. And then Andy said, well, this has just turned up. Any chance you can get this done for Telford?
I'll tell you what that was. That was I just busted a gut to build the Sheridan. I got the Sheridan finished and said, right, that's me done. And then Andy said, yeah, the Tamiya Spitfire Mark 1's just turned up. Do you think you can build it by next week? It's like, so Andy overnighted that to me at work. And I got it built. The funniest thing was, about a year later, I built another one just for my own entertainment. It took exactly the same length of time. Turns out I hadn't been rushing it at all. I still built it in like 6 days. So... But yeah, it was.
I love that kit. It's a great kit.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great model.
Yeah,
so yeah, absolutely. All right.
On that note, then, folks, we will be, like I say, we won't be back on Wednesday, but we'll be back. We'll certainly be back on Sunday. As always, we say to you, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and we will see you probably in a week's time. So until then, from ourselves, bye for now.